All right, hello, this is wmpyr. This is kind of a tag video. I was tagged by the KillaMethodShinobi. Man, that is a very cool YouTube channel name. I remember he asked me on email, through email, he said, should I change the name? And I was like, no, man, don't, dude, that is a hella cool name. Don't change it. I think at the time it was maybe just the Killa Method, and maybe it didn't have Shinobi attached on there, but whether it has Shinobi attached or not, man, I think that's super cool. So, okay, so he asked me he about like some fight that's coming up, some boxing match, and what are my 2 cents on it, or something like that. Who do I think is going to win? And what sparked this was him and, oh, I forgot the other gentleman's name. I went to the guy's YouTube channel, checked him out. He was, like he said, like the Killa Method said, the dude is a freaking Viking. And they were going back and forth with the Mike Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fight, which is a fight that I got to see. So real quick, let me just say that I'm not really a fight fan. Okay, I watch fights because I'm trying to learn for self-defense. So there's three main things. If I could get more out of it, I will. But the three main things that I look for when I watch fights and prize fights is what I'm talking about. Professional matches is number one is to get inspired to do the physical training, because it's hard, you know, to be motivated and to stay motivated. It's very, very difficult, and do the work that's needed to stay fit. So that's number one, because these guys are supreme athletes, and yeah, they're just on amazing levels. Number two is I watch their technique, I watch their strategy to improve mine. You know, I see the way they throw their combinations, or their strategies, their footwork and whatever, and I try to improve mine. Plain and simple, by watching, mimicking them, these pro athletes. Number three is I also like to imagine, what if I'm going up against someone like that? Maybe not at that level, but let's say like you know, a guy that's like a regular guy, but has the qualities of like a Mike Tyson, or has the qualities of like Bob Sapp or Kimbo Slice, or any of these fighters, GSP or whomever, you know? And I view it from, okay, so how would I defend myself against that? And yeah, so that's why I watch these fights, study some people. And for example, my favorite boxer, and by favorite, it's not because I like the person, or I don't know the guy, or anything like that, is Prince Nazim. The way he fights is very inspiring for me. I enjoy studying his movements and stuff, and it makes more sense for someone like me to study him, because our size, I'm closer to him, rather than me studying someone like George Foreman. It's good in a way, because it's nice for me to go, okay, I might have to defend against the street version, the Kmart version of George Foreman, but as far as me modeling my techniques and whatnot, it's gonna definitely be closer to someone like Prince Nazim. So yeah, that's one thing. MMA-wise, this is going to kind of reveal how old school I am, is actually back when it was NHB, there was a fighter from Brazil, Valetudo fighter, and his name was Joel de Oliveira. And that's the guy that I every fight of his, I watched very closely, studied, and I was like, I need to be able to be like this guy, or be able to fight this guy. And you know, I got to imagine that at some time, in some unannounced date, I'm going to fight him. So I need to be ready for this. This is the goal. This is this is where I'm aiming for. You know, that's the top of the mountain. So, so back in the day, I was training, you know, thinking about that and thinking about those two guys. They were awesome in my book. So let me go to the Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight that just happened. I didn't see the whole event. I just saw the Tyson and the Roy Jones Jr. fight, and I'm still studying it. I'm still watching it over and over, and there's a lot to learn. And this was so interesting because first, number one was, you know, we had the MMA Legends fight. We had Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell. We even had Hoist Gracie versus Ken Shamrock. This was the third time that they fought, if I'm not mistaken, and they were hoping that this was going to conclude it. And then you could even argue the Ken Shamrock versus Kimbo fight was kind of a Legends bout. So you had all these Legends bouts already happening in the world of MMA. And you could even go further back, and there are some bouts held like in Japan and stuff where they got boxing legends and brought them into mixed fights and whatnot. But I think what's important here is that all of those pretty much got like really bad presses. Some of those people just didn't treat seriously. They kind of like made fun of it, and yeah, it was very unfortunate. I enjoyed watching it. Also, myself being an older person, I'm very, very interested in it to see what is the human body capable of? And like watching the Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie fight, even though it didn't end the way that none of us wanted it to, except for maybe Hoist, when you look at someone, like I've never met Ken Shamrock, but I have met people who have, and I have met Guy Mesger, who was part of the Lion's Den, and the guy's enormous. I mean, it just looks like he's a different breed. If he's walking around in town, he's going to stand out. And so just seeing someone like that, in your brain, you got to wonder, like, if I need this guy in the balls, is it going to hurt him at all? And so to see Hoist Gracie take out Ken Shamrock with the alleged knee to the balls, sometimes, let me just say this, sometimes anyone who's actually done full contact will know this, that if the knee can be kind of high, it doesn't have to be directly to the groin. It could be kind of high, but it could still go straight to the groin. Like, that's where the pain comes out. That can happen. You could get hit over here and it hurts over here, you know? The human body is a mysterious thing. This can happen. So, you know, I don't think Ken Shamrock was lying about that. And do I think that Hoist Gracie purposely kneed him in the balls? I'd like to think not. I really do. I like to think not. So I like to say it was more accidental, and I need to see the footage again, but I recall that it was a little bit on the higher side, if I'm not mistaken. So in Hoist's mind, it was probably a clean hit. And then Ken Shamrock, you know, people were like, it's a late reaction, it's fake, whatever. I don't think so. That's how it happens sometimes. You don't feel it immediately. It's like you get hit, takes a second, and then, whoa, you know. So I really don't think that, yeah, you know, once again, if you've done the full contact, then you know these kinds of things. If you're just sitting back being a keyboard warrior, then yeah, you're not going to have any idea. But so a lot of these Legends matches have had a bad rap. And the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., I was worried. I was like, oh man, people are going to think this is ridiculous. But it seemed like it was getting more and more hype, and people were excited about it. So I was like, oh wow, cool. And maybe it was because the way boxing has been perceived all these years. It was the #1 full contact sport probably in the world. Even dudes from Thailand, back when I was like interested in Muay Thai, kickboxing and stuff, I talked to guys in Thailand and they knew who Mike Tyson was, and they loved watching boxing as well. So, yeah, all over the world, boxing was a #1 full contact sport. When you were the world heavyweight champ, you were the king of not just North America or the USA. I mean, you were the king of the world, and a lot of people respected that. But anyway, no need for me to go into that. But I'm really happy to see that people were seeing this fight positively. And part of that, I think, had to do with the Mike Tyson clip where he hit the focus mitts, and it was like, whoa, and he was like, I'm back. And then apparently for 2 weeks, he was in tremendous pain after that. Man, that is, because I hit the bag, and I'm like, I know I don't even hit like 10% of Mike Tyson, and I'm in pain. So I was like, man, how is he? Yes, we're not built the same. You see Mike Tyson's neck, I remember back in the day, he looked like a volcano, his head, because his neck was so big. And you look at his massive thighs, and he's so stocky. And I was like, is that the body you need to be able to hit that hard? And the answer is probably yes, but even he says that it was rough on him. So, you know, it kind of puts a more human perspective. But when we kept seeing footage of Mike Tyson training, and it was impressive. It was just him doing that, and it was like, damn, this is shades of the old Tyson. This looks scary. A lot of people were like, even at this age, this guy could, you know, people were saying all kinds of stuff. People, of course, probably more than half, 90% of these people do not know what they're talking about. But I saw comments that were like, if Tyson he could fight in today's division looking like that and stuff. Of course, these people don't know what they're talking about, but, you know, it didn't change the fact that it looked impressive. Mike Tyson looked like a killer. He looked good, really good. We saw Roy Jones Jr.'s footage because their camp they finally released some, and we saw the speed hitting from Roy Jones. That's what he was known for his speed. And I would constantly tell my students, years ago, I would tell my students, don't hit with combinations. You know, the max would be 4. Do not hit higher than that. In fact, I recommended 3. If you're going to do a combo, do it in 3s. You know, jab, cross, hook. You know, jab, cross, jab. So, you know, don't go more than that. Unless you're Roy Jones Jr. I used to say this all the time to my students. Don't do it unless you're Roy Jones Jr. If you're naturally gifted like that, if you just have this phenomenal speed, then go for it. But most of us, most regular people do not have that. So we got to stick it to combos of 3, maybe 4, you know. So anyway, they showed his footage of him doing his speed hitting, and it was impressive. It was like, wow, it's fast. But we didn't get to see his footwork. And we knew that if he was going to fight Mike Tyson, footwork was going to be the key. And Roy Jones was saying that his knees were bad. So we're like, oh, his knees are bad. And he's not showing any footwork, probably because he can't. And so people started assuming a lot of things. So if that's all he has is the speed hitting, he's going to get murdered. And now I think all across the board, all over the world, people started worrying. It's not to take away from Roy Jones and his abilities and his accomplishments, but now people started worrying, oh man, this guy's going to get killed. He's going to get murdered for real. Mike Tyson's just going to close in on him and just, you know, destroy him. He's put in that shoulder and everything and just crush. It's going to be a quick KO. And because Roy Jones is much, much older now, I mean, it's not just going to be a KO. He's going to be really hurt. So that's what I think a lot of people were worried. I was worried about that too. And then I think Roy Jones Jr.'s camp, they saw some of those comments. So they're like, you know, this is not good. We got to release some positivity here. So they released another footage of Roy Jones Jr. running up a hill going, see, he's doing road work. He's using his legs. And I guess it was going up a hill, and it had the opposite effect. It looked like, I don't know, like a chicken trying to run up a hill, or the legs looked wrong. And I think that further cemented in people's minds, uh-oh, this guy, his legs are gone. He has no legs whatsoever. And thankfully, we were all wrong. Because the footage released, you can't just go, it wasn't enough footage, is the truth. And their camp would probably be like, yeah, we're not going to give it away. We're not going to show you how that would be dumb. And you're about to go to war, and you give all this footage away, giving all this info to the enemy camp, that doesn't make sense. So, you know, if people start underestimating your fighter, that's a good thing, right? So, and I think all of us, it wasn't so much that we were taking away from Roy Jones Jr. We were worried about the guy, literally. Tyson looked good. Tyson in the interview was like, hey, why aren't people worried about me? Well, it's his style. He's ferocious. He was the most aggressive, power, known for his power, and you know, even in his pre-fight interviews, he said the most outrageous things that, I mean, probably looking back on it now, he's really ashamed of and embarrassed about, but that was the attitude of like Conan the Conqueror sitting on the throne, you know, asking girls for a blowjob in the middle of an interview. I mean, it's insane, right? So I don't want to humiliate Mike Tyson. He probably doesn't like it, me bringing that up or anyone bringing that up. But, you know, I'm just saying, I get it. The mentality, he was, at that time, in his mind, he was like, you know, the god of Mars, you know, god of war. And he definitely acted it for sure. But now today, he's in a much happier place. I'm really glad that they were promoting a lot of positivity throughout the event, before, during, and even after the event. That they were saying that this is for the world because of COVID and everything, to encourage people and inspire people and entertain people and say, hey man, don't give up. The world sucks right now, but it's okay. We can make it through this. Watch us fight. We're old guys, but look, we put in the time, and look at this, you know? So that kind of thing. So that to me, my hat goes off to them. I'm glad that nobody seriously got hurt, as far as like, at least on the surface that I could tell. It did look to me like Roy Jones Jr. took a beating. It is kind of the Mike Tyson was the aggressor, so in a way it was kind of like a George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali in the Africa fight, where, you know, Muhammad Ali of course did the famous rope-a-dope, but in this case it wasn't the rope-a-dope, but it was the clinch. There's a lot of things to learn from this fight. The fact that Roy Jones Jr. he did the box from the outside. Thankfully his legs, they still worked, and then it was in the clinch. So this is the exact same strategy that I have, which is long range and close range, no medium range. If he had fought in medium range, he would have been knocked out by Mike Tyson. So he fought in long range. He fought in medium range. This is, you know, so this to me further cements my strategy, and I'm not saying I'm right and everyone else is wrong. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that this method is legit. Look at Roy Jones Jr. He pulled it off at this age against the Mike Tyson. Yes, Mike Tyson's old too, but Mike Tyson still look like a beast when you see him hit those focus pads and stuff. So 100%. To me, from a self-defense perspective, Roy Jones Jr. was successful here by not getting knocked out. Now, he might been really, really hurt. He did say he was super sore. I hope it's, you know, no internal damage. Well, there's got to be, but hopefully it's just micro damage that over time it's going to heal, and it's not like going to lead to some serious problems in the immediate future. I really hope not. but the dude, from a self-defense point of view, that's a success. So to me, from that regards, Roy Jones Jr. won from a self-defense point of view. In a boxing match, I think many people have said it, Mike Tyson won the fight. If it was legit boxing, you got to give it to Mike Tyson for that. So that's fine. I mean, Mike Tyson did, to me, an amazing performance there. Some fighters get ring rust and whatnot, and I don't think he really showed it. I thought he did fantastic. So if you look at that kind of stuff, it's, once again, inspiring. It shows you what the human mind can do, and what the human body, the human mind, body, and soul put together properly can do for you. And the way that Tyson was fighting, it was always an interest of mine to and I'm sure tons of other people, how would have Mike Tyson done in the UFC? And I think this match kind of sheds some light that if he would have been clinched, he would have been neutralized, and he would have been taken down, and he would have been on the ground. Now, it just depends on who does the clinching. When they clinch, are they able to neutralize this guy? Are they able to off-balance him enough that they could get the takedown? Or is Mike Tyson's legs just way too strong? Is his sense of balance too good? Even for an amateur wrestler, maybe it might take an amateur wrestler of a very high caliber. A high school wrestler may not be good enough. Depending on the person, of course, individually, but the average high school wrestling background may not be good enough because Mike Tyson's just too much of an athlete, and the body is, I'm not trying to be rude, but is a freak, is a monster. So then maybe you need to go up to like NCAA class wrestler to be able to take someone like that down. And then once on the ground, of course, he's going to be out of his element. So I think this kind of sheds some light to that. So it was great to study, great to watch this. And like I said, I'm going to continue to watch this. I'm noticing that a lot of the footwork that Mike Tyson utilizes and the body mechanics is actually very, very similar to Eskrima Kali Arnis. So that to me is very interesting as well. And of course, in Filipino martial arts, there's also the long-range fighting, which now the Roy Jones Jr. style of the long-range fighting will come more into place. But the difference is Roy Jones Jr. from the long range is still trying to hit the head. When you're trying to hit the head or the body, you still got to come in close, way close, compared to trying to hit the arms or trying to hit the arms after the guy's trying to punch you. So the guy's hands are already out. So if you're looking at it from that point of view and not having the destructions and defang the snake, to me, the boxer's long-range fighting is way, way, way more limited. In MMA, they can kick, so that gives you a longer, it's almost like a spear. But even MMA, compared to the Filipino martial arts style of long range, I feel like they don't have the full picture, right? And maybe, once again, that might be because in MMA, hitting the person's arms with your hands and stuff, it just may not be that effective. But, and this is where I've said to you guys time and time again, it's not so much about how much damage you do, it's about you executing your plan. So if I'm constantly hitting the other guy's arm and that guy can't touch me, that's causing frustration over there. That's causing a downwards mental spiral. And I want him stuck deep in it. And I want him to battle himself. So, and if I'm not getting hit, that's a win-win situation right there. So I will be doing destructions, defang the snake all day, even if it's 0 damage to the opponent. And I expect that. I expect 0 damage. Even with a knife, even with a stick, I will still expect 0 damage when I'm doing that. Why? Because there's clothes. Some dudes are just really tough. And I can't, because if I jump in to fully like break his arm with the stick, and if I try to do that, that's when the openings, the counter shots start opening up on me. The more I commit, the closer I get. Now I can eat it. And I don't want we both get hit, because I just view myself as brittle, and I am. So that's kind of the viewpoint that I have. Remember, in my mind, I'm always facing someone bigger, stronger, and meaner and tougher. So anyway, thank you for the tag video. This stuff is fascinating, and I'm sorry I'm not doing the tag video the way that you want, but in the fight world, I just go around watching fights here and there, whatever I feel like, and mainly 90% of the time, yes, I do study, but a lot of the times also, especially now at this age, it's really more so for staying fit, just getting inspired. So that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.